Hey everyone, Carl here with Literate Lessons, bringing you a deep dive featuring Centiskorch. So we had a tie on Friday between Centiskorch and Metagame, so I decided to cover both of them this week. Even though Centiskorch isn't in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, it's still an interesting Pokemon to cover, looking at Series 11 in general. And when we get to Metagame on Friday, we'll talk about Metagame overall as a potential Series 11 Pokemon and look at some Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl stuff. But before we get started on Centiskorch, make sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications for when new videos go live, and make sure to go follow us at LR Lessons so you can vote on these polls on every Friday that we do. I think this week we're looking at doing some more Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl mons, just to kind of keep that whole hype train going up through until Pokemon Legends Arceus. So, Centiskorch is an interesting Pokemon to say the least. It does one thing for the most part, and it's kind of just like interesting. It does offer as a decent pivot, being a bug and fire type, having real good resists, especially in the format of Series 11, and can also show up offensively with decent stab and coverage moves. You get things like Power Whip and Knockoff. Fire is always just a real good coverage, nice coverage to have. Bug type's a little interesting, mainly being able to hit Dark, Grass, Psychic types and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool seeing what you can do and where you can do it, what you can do with Centiskorch. The main thing that Centiskorch is known for, though, is its Gigantamax move. I think it's G-Max Centinferno. I think that's right what it's called. Anywho, it's Fire Spin on steroids, was the best way to put it. It traps your opponent for 4 to 5 turns, dealing damage over time. Unlike Fire Spin, if Centiskorch faints, they are still trapped. So, big brain there to think about that. Also, you can switch your Centiskorch out and they will still be trapped as well. So, if you're doing Perish Trap things, Centiskorch is usually a real good pairing alongside that. Centiskorch's history in the format is very short. We saw it almost never in the later formats since we got Crown Tundra. I don't think I saw a whole ton of play in Isle of Armor formats either, but it's a very interesting typing and a very interesting Pokemon introduced in Sword and Shield. Fire Bug is a powerful typing. I would define it as like decent typing. It's not Steel Bug and has like one weakness, but it's really close to that. Fire Bug loses its weakness to ground because Bug resists ground. You're only 4 times weak to rock. You're 2 times weak to flying and water. So those are some cool things to think about there. However, we did see Centiskorch a little bit on Perish Trap teams. Like I mentioned earlier, it's a real good Perish partner. You would Gigantamax your Centiskorch, have your Perish Song user use Perish Song and G-Max Centinferno, lock them into place for those however many turns. If they take out Centiskorch, that's fine. They're going to lose those 2 months anyway unless they have a way to pivot out of it. And you would just repeat this process again on the next turn using Perish Song after those Pokemon have died, so on and so forth. So it was a real niche strategy, and I think Centiskorch has some more tricks up its sleeve, especially for Series 11. Common partners for Centiskorch are very few and far between. I was looking up data for this for a while, I would say, and there's some drastic partners here. So, starting off with the big ones here are like Zacian and Regieleki, which make the most sense. These are some of the most powerful Pokemon in the format. If you're trying to play with Centiskorch, the rest of your team has to make up for that power level disparity. So Zacian here at 71%, Regieleki at 66%, both make total sense. Rillaboom's a real good answer to like rock types if you're really worried about that for Centiskorch. So at 38%, that makes a whole lot of sense as well. As we go down through the list, though, we see a lot of other 38s. There was Drampa, Dusclops, Araquanid, Landorus is another 38%er for some reason. Like, I feel like there's a team with Centiskorch out there somewhere that just has all these 38ers on it, and that's what the team is. Other partners to consider are things like Tapu Fini, Lapras. Like I mentioned, Lapras is a Perish Song user, so that's a very good possible archetype for you to play with. It's not as good in current Sword and Shield, mainly due to the fact that there's so many ways to pivot out of it. But if you're looking for something like that, that is an option for you. Landorus is also interesting, mainly because it's just like you're both kind of not like the best against rock types, even though Landorus is a ground type. You are still ground flying, so you do take neutral damage from rock. And you're both weak to water, so it's an interesting pairing to see Landorus and Centiskorch alongside each other. But if it works, I guess. Looking at the metagame breakdown here, we see that Protect is 99%, probably should be 100. I feel like Protect is almost a must on this Pokemon unless you have like a weird reason not to. Coil is fine. Like Coil turns into Protect Max Guard, obviously when you Dynamax, so it makes the most, like if you're running that over Protect, that's probably fine. As for coverage moves, you get access to things like Leech Life, X Scissor, Power Whip, Fire Lash, Flare Blitz. You also have special moves like Bug Buzz, Flamethrower, Heat Wave, all that jazz. There's also the access to Knockoff, which Knockoff is really, really big in Sword and Shield, mainly due to the fact that it's just so limited on Pokemon now. I think back in the day, Knockoff was able to be put on almost like any Pokemon that had hands at some point. And having access to Knockoff in Sword and Shield is usually a pretty big deal. As for items, we see Safety Goggles and Koba Berry are the top two items there. These make the most sense. Safety Goggles is great against like Venusaur. It helps you be a Sun answer if you need to be. Koba Berry helps you against opposing Landorus, other flying coverage like Hurricane and stuff like that. Expert Belt's interesting at 3%. It helps you out your damage a little bit, but I feel like if you're looking to try and OHKO things with Expert Belt, you're probably looking to do the wrong thing. As for other potential items, there's always like Charty Berry, which is the Rock Berry. Assault Vest is another option, helping out boost your pretty decent special defense, meaning you don't have to put anything into it, and you can put more into your defense and HP and stuff like that. So there's a whole ton of items that still have been unexplored for Centiskorch. When looking to build with Centiskorch, one of the big things you have to remember is we know how powerful Bug and Fire types are. We saw Volcarona a ton in Series 10. Now, part of that was due to Rage Powder and whatnot, but being able to resist Fighting and Steel from Zacian and Fairy if it's running Play Rough is huge. So having that Fire Bug type to pivot in against opposing Zacian is really, really good, especially if you're running like a Flame Body set or just a bulkier Centiskorch in general. Granted, your defense isn't the greatest, but if you invest enough into it, I think you can probably take 2 Behemoth Blades fairly easily, even when paired with an Intimidator. Another thing to remember is you need to watch out for Rock and Ground. Ground is a neutral hit, and it's very, very prevalent right now. Rock is 4 times super effective. Beware Colossal. That's like the caveat with playing Centiskorch is Colossal is a thing. You gotta watch out for it. Same thing with like Landorus or other rock coverage. I think Celesteela runs Meteor Beam. If you see that, definitely be aware of that being a thing. So keep a lookout for some of those things when you're playing with Centiskorch. Try to predict that stuff and play around it well. And lastly, Steel types make the best pairing for Centiskorch. Steel types resist rock. If you have a ground weakness, but if you get like Celesteela or some other like levitating steel type to pair a Centiskorch, you don't have to worry about that ground weakness as much. Centiskorch resists fighting, which is a good swap out for that. Steel type there, you can eat fire type attacks all day if you're like Flash Fire, so that's a good pivot there as well. So Steel types and Centiskorch tend to pair really well together. Looking at movesets and whatnot for Centiskorch here, we see that we have a fairly high base HP and a fairly high base special defense. Our defense, however, is very lackluster at 65 here. We do not take physical hits very well. Definitely be on the lookout for something like looking up for like Rock Slide or Stone Edge. Those will usually probably take you out 100% of the time. On the offensive side, though, we see that we have a base 115 attack and White Smoke. White Smoke means that we don't have to take any stat drops from whatever, so our 115 attack is going to stay 115 against all the Intimidators in the format, Landorus, Incineroar, so on and so forth. We do also boast a decent special attack at 90. It's nothing to write home about, but if you want to run special Centiskorch, you can. Granted, you're going to lose a lot of access to a lot of the coverage moves that you get, like Power Whip, Knockoff, and stuff like that, but it might be a fine trade-off if you're looking to play a more supportive, trapping Centiskorch. As for your speed, this is the big caveat for Centiskorch. Your speed is garbage. You are not slow enough for real Trick Room, but you're not fast enough to outspeed things with like if you put on Scarf or something like that. So definitely keep an eye on your speed control on however you do it. If you're playing Trick Room, cool. If you're playing Tailwind, cool. Just be wary that things will outspeed you or underspeed you fairly easily. When looking to defeat an opposing Centiskorch, like I mentioned, you have a real big rock weakness. Pokemon like Landorus, Colossal, Celesteela. I'm trying to think of other rock type coverage. Garchomp. Goodness, there's so many like random rock slide mons. Charizard carries Ancient Power. Groudon has a Rock Slide. I'm just trying to think of all these rock coverage moves that you have to try and be aware of when you're playing Centiskorch. Definitely like look out for those things. Your opponents are going to look to do that to you because it is a 4 times weakness hit. You're not going to like that. Other things to think of when you're playing against Centiskorch is beware of Flame Body. It's not something we see every day. It was very popular on Volcarona in Series 10, mainly due to the fact that it had Rage Powder and can redirect hits into it. But the last thing you need is like your physical attacker to get burned. That puts you so far behind your Zacians and your Landoruses and all that stuff. It just puts you so far behind. Definitely be aware of that stuff. And then lastly, Centiskorch, like I mentioned, isn't the fastest Pokemon in the world. It's not slow enough for Trick Room, but it's not super duper fast. So if you have good speed control, like if they're doing Tailwind and you match that, you're going to outspeed that Centiskorch fairly easily. Even like random Choice Scarf Mons that are in the format can easily outspeed a Tailwind Centiskorch right now. And you can easily squash it before it has a chance to do any kind of actual significant damage. So to wrap up with Centiskorch, as we know, it's not the best Pokemon in the world, but it does seem to have a niche use in Series 11 as kind of like a Zacian answer, or as like a trapping mon for Parish Trap teams. We haven't seen much of those since Lapdog kind of rotated out of the whole rotation and Sun becomes super popular. But as the format develops and I think Sun kind of drops off and people kind of get bored of it, you might be able to fit Centiskorch into your teams and play Lapdog and do some niche stuff with that. And look to utilize Gmax Centiforno to trap your opponents. You don't have to do Parish Trap. This can even be like a good damage over time tool. You're not doing a ton like Vocalith is, but you do get to pick up damage over time, and you do get the bonus of trapping them. So like your Intimidate stick a little bit better, all your stat drops do a little bit more, you don't have to worry about weird pivots for resetting Fake Out and stuff like that. So just keep that thought in the back of your head. And it's when you're playing Centiskorch, be wary of those weaknesses. Rock and Flying are very common types right now because they're just easy to just slap on Pokemon. So definitely, if you have those moves against it, cool. If you're using Centiskorch and you see things like that, run to the hills. Avoid them all. Definitely keep your Centiskorch safe. That's the best thing you can do for it. And try to utilize your moves effectively. And with that being said, I want to thank you all for listening to me ramble about Centiskorch today. Make sure to check us out on Twitter at LRLessons, at MrMissouri25, and at MusicalVGC. Make sure to check out our Discord link in the description down below, or discord.gg/LRLessons. We're talking about Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl Draft League coming up in like around Christmas time, so be on the lookout for that if that's something you're interested in. I personally may not partake because I really don't like team building on Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, but for those that like to, there's the option for it there. And remember to just subscribe, ring the bell, hit the like button, all that great stuff. It helps us out a ton. Comment down below if you got ideas for Pokemon to put in the poll for Friday. We'd love to hear about that as well. And with that being said, have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're at in the world, and we will see you all on Friday with Metagross. Bye, everyone.